Hope everyone is back to their desk. After the insightful session from Manasa, we are going to start with our second session of the day. Second session is from Chandigarh chapter. We'll be hearing from Satish Kumar Arora about my learnings from Everest Base Camp. This session will be facilitated by Srijit. Srijit, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Prashant. So we are going to see an exciting session from an inspiring personality, Satish Kumar Arora. Satish is a co-founder of AppSmarts, and he's already impacting almost like 10 million customers around the world with 100 plus countries, and impacting quite a lot of people through his voice and video technology expertise and leadership. So Satish, looking forward to your session. So we are all waiting to understand and be inspired and would like to know more. And you already have like 5,000 followers in LinkedIn. Looks like you are going to add another 100 today. So welcome and looking forward to hear from you. So everyone, please start whatever questions kindly put into the chat. We will facilitate the questions at the end of the session once Satish completes his presentations.
Okay. Thanks, Srijit. Thanks for a warm introduction. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is awake, and I'm not going to make you bore with some, I think, leadership or some other lessons. So I am actually going to take you on an exciting journey to Everest Base Camp. I hope you will enjoy this. And so some of you might have actually gone through that. I'm not sure yet. But yes, I want to share my own journey, what happened. Okay, basically, tell me more about myself. So I'm not more an adventure person. I'm not even a very much sports person until 2013, when 2011, so I was diagnosed with a cancer. So my life actually took a twist. So when I was almost 2 years on the bed, and after that I actually took a setback in my professional and personal life. Then I actually decided that, okay, this is not something, the life that I'm actually going to live for. So then actually by 2013, I actually decided to make a shift in my lifestyle. So that is how what I am about today, right? And let me tell you about my trekking experience also. This Everest Base Camp is my first trekking experience. Before that, I have never been to any trekking, any of the mountains or any other track I have been to, right? But what I feel the most important thing in the life that actually make you or break you is the aspiration, right? So I think I'm starting from the A, aspiration. I'm sure, I think before I just check how many of you are awake here, I have one question from all of you. So right now, do you have at least one wish or aspiration at the top of your mind right now? You can, I think, answer. I will wait for a few seconds. You can answer it in the chat box. Okay, I think I have started getting the messages, right? So most of the people have something, right? Okay, good. So I just wanted to check I'm actually talking to the right audience here, and it's just not the one-way communication. So I will just ask you a simple thing. So take a pen and paper and note them down, whatever is in your mind. Right? I'm now taking you to the exciting journey of so how it started, and okay, the very first thing. So how was the plan made? So before that, I tell you more about my work and business. So I basically, I think Srijit also already mentioned, I'm a founder of a IT startup. So we are a product-based company. And for this, for the business thing, so I used to travel a lot, right? Before the COVID era, I'm actually talking of. So it was March 2019 when I met one of the person from the same town. We were on a trip to China. So I met one of the person there. who was from the same town, and we actually just started sharing our thoughts and all that. And in December 2019, I came across another person when I was on a trip to US. So we both, I met both of these personalities the first time, and this is how the opportunity came and knocked in one of my WhatsApp message group. So one of them actually posted a message, okay, any tracker available in the group planning for the Everest Base Camp in March. So this was somewhere around Jan 22. So, so this was the opportunity, right? So my first lesson from this journey actually comes is opportunities are always around. It's up to you whether you grab it or you just pass them on, right? So they will always come and knock you. It's up to you, right? And I tell you, these opportunities I grabbed and our plan was on, right? There are a lot of movies that probably has been made around the Everest Base Camp journey, Summit journey. But I never saw any movie even before making my plan, and even before I went there. I watched all the movies after I actually came back from my journey. So probably after I have come back, so I might not have thought that the journey will be that tough if I have known earlier, so I might not have made my plan. So sometimes lesser knowledge is also important. So this is something, so we made our plan. This was how initially our plan was looking like. So we will go to Kathmandu to Lukla, and how this journey will go up to the Mount Everest base camp, right? So, so we were actually thinking Lukla is the place that from where actually the journey will start, right? So we were all planned, we were all set. So we started preparing. We have actually went through a travel agent and booked all our plans and all that stuff. And so we were almost ready to go. So before that, so I think we were all getting ready. So all that for readiness. So while actually doing this, so I think you can see a lot of the clothing stuff here, and the other colleague of mine, so who went along with us, so is there in the pictures, right? So we were all getting prepared for the gears that we need while our journey, as recommended by our travel guide, right? So we were all getting ready for that. So one important thing, so while I actually do that, and I learned from this was modular approach and time management. So now what is this modular approach? So when we were actually living here in the summers, so the area that I look around was in summer where the temperature was around 30 degree, and we were going to somewhere in the temperature of minus 10 degree, minus 15 degree. So how to manage your body, how to manage your clothing. So that becomes very important, right? So that's what I learned. You have to wear the clothes in layers always, right? And the time management I learned. So just 2 weeks back, I bought these shoes so that you could see in the pictures. And throughout the day during my office time, during all in the meeting, so I was wearing those shoes, because normally when you go on a track, it is not never recommended that you should buy a new shoes. You should always use the existing shoes. But this was my first time, and this is the first time I bought the shoes. So for almost 2 weeks, so in the office, in all the meetings, I was wearing my shoes, these shoes, as 24/7, just like that, except I was on the bed in the night at that time only, right? And finally our start day coming, so wherein we have to start our journey from Chandigarh airport to Delhi, and Delhi to Kathmandu. And you understand that, so probably the problems don't come by giving you the indication as like the opportunity, right? So problems come all of a sudden. So by the time we reached Chandigarh airport, so we started realizing that our flight has been cancelled, and we all were shifted to some another flight that will go after say 1.5 hours. So our layover time in Delhi was very small. So we were having very less chances of now, okay, we will reach Kathmandu today itself. So these problems start coming in. And by the time we reached Delhi somehow, but we actually realized, okay, the next flight has also been delayed, luckily. And by that time, our PCR report was not accessible to us very easily, right? Just a day before we have that all PCR tests done, because that was the norm, a new norm now. So that's how all these problems came in. So we reacted and we solved those problems step by step, and then we reached somehow to the check-in counter in Delhi, so where we were supposed to get into the Kathmandu flight, and we realized that the flight is almost ready to close the gates. And then we started realizing there is one new form that has to come, that has to be filled, that why we are going, how we are going, your PCR report and all that. So that was not known even to the travel agent, that these are the basic requirements now in the new normal, right? So these problems comes in. So the another lesson that I learned from this is, it is not the problems that will make or break, but how you react to them. So whenever the problems come, you make sure you react to them, and react to them in a positive way, in a positive manner, that how this can actually be solved, because this is the situation that you have to react to, right? So, and finally, we actually landed up there in Kathmandu the same day. I also want to tell you my landing experiences in Kathmandu. That was not very easy, because that happened to me. I have over 100, might be having more than 100 flights boarded, but that experience never happened to me while we were landing in Kathmandu. Our flight was about to land on the airport. We were close to the runway, and suddenly, while the flight touching to the runway, it actually took off again. So this, I don't know why that happened. No message, no announcement happened. So that was the flight landed in the second attempt. So that was the experience that came in. So problems always come. Sometimes you can even get a chance to react, and sometimes you don't even get a chance to react, right? So that is the learning that we made. So we reached Kathmandu somehow. We checked into the hotel. The next day was our journey. That evening was little silent, so we were already going through that trauma. So I was traveling for after almost 1 year or so after the COVID period, right? So I also tell you, by the evening, so we have to separate our bags. Generally, whenever you go from for any trekking, so you have to carry the bags which are easily carried by the porters, right? Or you better carry the backpacks which are easy to carry. So normally, there is a limit also on the next flight that we're supposed to take the next day. So we, by the evening, so we did some small shopping on rent. We got some high altitude jackets for the winters, and over sleeping bags and all that. That's all the part of the track that normally they actually provide you, right? And so over next day, our flight was there in Lukla. I tell you more about this experience, the first-hand experience of this Kathmandu railway airport. So this airport just looks like another bus stand. So wherein you always have this open ticket. These are the small lanes, so which don't have any kind of a safety measures or something like that. So you board these flights, and it's a 1 hour flight from Kathmandu to Lukla, from where our journey was supposed to start. But I tell you, this was the worst experience that I could imagine in this flight, right? So that made me give it a thought, that whether I have made the right decision to do the Everest Base Camp, or I should have dropped that. After 1.5 hours, it's normally 40-45 minutes journey, but after 1.5 hours, we realized that the pilot made the announcement because of the weather condition, we could not land there. So we are going back to Kathmandu. So there is no option, right? So nothing we could do much about it. We came back here at the Kathmandu airport after 1.5 hour horrific flight, right? And so we were actually making our mind to cancel our trip at that moment, right? The experience was so horrific, right? Why it was, so I will tell you when we will reach Lukla. So there was then no option there. Other than that, you come back, you wait for the flight next day that may fly or may not fly. Or then again, they give you the open tickets that is automatically shifting to the next day. But generally what happens is they don't give you the priority even if your flight is cancelled. So it is just like a first come first serve basis. So you go, and normally the people wait for generally for 2, 3, 4 days, and normally they come very early in the morning, like 4, 6 a.m. types, so that they can get a chance to board the flight and they can reach to the destination. Because normally in the early hours the chances of weather is clear are high. So that's where the another chance came in. So wherein we actually took the try to find another resource if it is available. So the other option is from Kathmandu you can take a private helicopter, and that actually, if possible, can try to land, because normally the chopper actually flies at a much lower height, so the chances are higher you can easily land up there. So that's how we reached there somehow. So there was another learning that I made after we reached Lukla was willingness is much more valuable than resources in this resourceful world. So there are resources all around. Your willingness will always prevail, that whether you want to do or you want to do or you want to achieve something out of it. And believe it, if we could not have made this decision at that time, we realized this after 3-4 days, when we realized that for next 3-4 days, neither of the flight could take off from Kathmandu and land in Lukla. And this is normally happens. This happens for sometimes for weeks also, right? So this from here, so finally we were at the point so where our journey was about to start. So this is a small town, Lukla, from where our journey was about to start. So but we were quite late, so we reached there by quite late, somewhere around evening, around 4 or 5 p.m. So where we took the break, we had our lunch there somehow. And here you will see the team of 2 porters and 1 Sherpa. So who is a guide to us, so was there along with us. So we somehow took our journey from Lukla to Phagding the very same evening, and we reached by around 8 or 9. So that was quite schedule that day, early morning wake up, then flight could not land up. So we reached somehow there. So the another lesson that I learned here is team plays a very important role in your success. So never underestimate it, right? So that was the team that motivated us even in the evening hours at 4 or 5, that okay, let's start the journey. So wherever we reach, even if we will not reach the Phagding, so in between we will try to make a halt there, right? And then probably we can take over next stage. So the next day was our journey from Phagding to Namche Bazaar. So the journey was getting tougher and tougher, and but we were quite motivated now. So because we have not lost a single day, we could have reached to the same point we were supposed to as per our trekking plan. So next day we were quite motivated, and we actually planned to took our journey to back to Phagding, from Phagding to Namche Bazaar. So this was the next day journey that all started, and this was the most toughest journey and most steep journey. So in the whole track from Phagding to the Namche Bazaar, you actually cross the maximum altitude, and that the height is very steep always, right? So this is the toughest part of the journey always, right? Because this is the also the very initial attempt, and this is tough also. So the chances of altitude sickness are very high, but the learning that I made from this was no pains, no gains. This journey was all the tougher, and if you will see in the picture, so by the time we reached there, so it was all night and snowfall was happening. So this was all raining, and sometimes in between, wherever the weather conditions are bad, the snowfall was happening. So that's why we will see we have already over rain jackets put on that particular evening. So, but this was the spectacular view of the last village. Wherever I think the life is easily available, accessible, the market is there. Some of the helpful, easy is available in this trek journey. So that is the last village where the people live regularly. And sometimes in the winters also these villages becomes vacant, right? But yes, this is the spectacular view of Namche Bazaar. So that we found after this much pain, right? But the journey was almost stopped here. The night was not very easy. The next day, so we already had the altitude sickness. We were not able to eat anything. We were not able to sleep. So it was, the journey was getting very tougher because this was the first halt that we made. And normally what is done is uh, there is a rest for a day in Namche Bazaar, because after you have actually come from Lukla to this site, so for the acclimatization, so you have to take a break here. So here, this was our break day. The next day was our break day, and this is okay. I think I tell you, I think the views about the Namche Bazaar. So the most spectacular view on the whole track. This is the only place where you get a glimpse of the Everest. Otherwise, there is very difficult to get a glimpse of the Everest before that, and even after that sometimes. So on the right, I think you can see the statue of the Tenzing Norgay, and who actually went as a Sherpa to with the Edmund Hillary, who were the first trackers to summit the Mount Everest. And this was the last place where you can actually get the food of your choice if your test buds are good enough. So we were trying to make sure that our test buds are okay. We are not feeling any sickness, taking rest and all that. But this is the place from where the oxygen is also available on rent, right? So this is the place you can get the oxygen on rent along with the Wi-Fi. And so the lesson I learned here is the breaks are not just rewarding, but equally needed as you work. So this was our break day that we learned, and we recharged ourselves for our next journey. And our next journey was here to Tangboche, from Namche Bazaar to Tangboche. About this journey, so this is not very steep as it was Phakding to Namche Bazaar, but on the other side, it has the most spectacular views. Where the view changes on the every side. So when you are actually trekking through that, so you can see, I think one of the peak here, Amadablam. This is the most beautiful peak in Nepal Everest region at around 22,000 feet. You will see here, I think, some of the pictures of where the views are changing very quickly, right? So and some of the very, I think, famous world's highest Mount Everest bakery here. So on the path. So like this was the only journey to Tangboche, so wherein we were actually seeing the mountains with the green and the same mountains with the filled with the snow at another point in time, right? So this was over where we actually reached Tangboche, and the learning for me was, in this dynamic world, the perspective depends on the side you are looking at or from, right? So over next day there was no halt. Next day, so finally we reached to Tengboche, and next day our journey was to Dingboche, from Tengboche to Dingboche. About this journey, Tengboche to Dingboche, so now the challenge was coming. So was now we were actually getting lesser and lesser resources now. So even water, getting the water and oxygen was a luxury. So you are getting the oxygens normally, this is a luxury for you. Okay, you don't need anything. And you are getting the water to drink, it's a luxury for you here, right? Leave of food, what is there, what it is not there. So all this village I could see, this was all empty. There was no one there. So the reason of this emptiness was also that people, because of the COVID last 1 year, was very difficult. There was no tourist and all that. And the person where we lived in Dingboche of the small hotel, so he actually walked in from along with us from Tengboche to Dingboche, right? So he, when we reached there, he reached an hour before us, and he opened his hotel and for us to stay there with the beds, sleeping bags, and all that, because the population density reduces and reduces. Food is difficult to get sometimes, and surprisingly, even I think in Namche Bazaar, I did not tell you, the food that we were getting there was expired almost 1 year back, and there was no choice. So you have to take the canned food. So this was the how our journey actually took. So this was that the walk was very less steep compared to the earlier track, and but this, it was tiring, right? And so as I told you, so we were getting back to the basics. I think this is the learning that was happening. Even for a water to be made, so the ice is actually filled into this, and that warms up with the solar cooker, and which makes the water which is available for the drinking. Uh, so here what was happening, so we were getting more and more motivated and we were getting energized. So we were about to make our journey's biggest mistake after this. So I will come to the basics here. So the learning that we will make is be clear about your zone. The cost of mistakes depends upon your zone. I hope every one of you understand this. I think most of you are actually from this IT background and understand this learning in the corporate. So we always talk about the zones: comfort zone, fear zone, learning zone, and growth zone. So we were somewhere between learning zone, so where we were learning, hiking, trekking, and suddenly we actually came in the comfort zone and we made a wrong decision the very next day after we reached there. Because after we reached there, so we found the hotel is very basic, so even getting a water is very difficult there. So the journey was getting tougher and tougher. So what we did, rather than waiting for the acclimatization, because it is normally always recommended that after every 800,000 meters, you have to take a break, make sure your body gets adapted to this, or otherwise it is very difficult in high altitude. You feel the mountain sickness, and sometimes your decision making also becomes poor, right? So sometimes when you are actually walking a group, so you are always recommended you keep watching the steps of the others peers also. Sometimes the person will not get realized that okay, you are falling sick, but you will actually came to know that it is. So this was supposed to happen, but we made a decision the next day rather than waiting. So we will go to the next part, that was Lobuche. This was the biggest mistake that we made in our journey, and it costed us a lot. When I think we will come to the end of the journey, I will let you know. So you can see our confidence here, right? So we were overconfident, like, right? But we were not knowing that, okay, we are not yet ready for our next journey, but our guide also recommended us better we should take a break here for at least 1 day before we go there. So, but we were energized, motivated, and inexperienced, right? So this was the in-between part. So when we go to the Labuche, so this is the in-between place, Thukla. So where I think the guide again told us, so if you want a break, better you can take a break. So this was almost 2 hours journey. So we stopped here for the lunch. Uh, uh, he actually asked us, okay, if you want, you can stop here, then we can actually go next day to the journey. But we were thinking of, okay, we are motivated, so we will go next. So this is the next place which is near Thukla. So this is Thukla Pass. So this has a very special memory in my mind. So this is the place which is built in the memory of the people who came here for the mountaineering, who came here for the trekking or for the summit, but who could not come back. So this place is all about, you will see on the left, right. So all this is the place where the is in the memory of the people. They build a place, they build a stone. And uh, realistically, when I actually researched about this place, I actually found one more interesting thing, that most of these people who could not come back have already completed their track, but on the way back to their journey, they could not survive, right? Because in those places, it is not easy to even bring those bodies back to your towns or cities. So the bodies remains there forever. So this was our next place that we were motivated, that I was trying to tell you in Tengboche, that this is the place. This is the name of the place is Pyramid International Laboratory Observation. This is a high altitude science and technology center, so which is built with the two governments between Nepal and Ireland. So this center is made. This is the fully solar place. So where this is the last place of, before the base camp, where you have the electricity option, where you have the water option and hot water option also. You have the heaters there. So this was the like the luxury and comfort. So that was the reason guide told us, okay, this is the place if you want a comfortable life. So you can at least stay for a day there, right? So we were very, I think once we reached there, although we were very tired, because we were non-stop running, doing the track for almost 3 days, and we have almost crossed around 1200 1500 meters altitude. So we should have taken a break there, but I don't know what was there. So we were overexcited. We got the dishes, our own dishes prepared in the kitchen. Most of the things were available there, because a lot of international travelers also come and stay here, right? So whenever they come, and some of the scientists also come here, right? But that was the turning point. So I think I was about to tell you that we made a mistake, right? Rather than stopping there, we actually reached here. So this was the mistake that we made here. So once we reach here, rather than taking some rest, so we were getting excited, and the lesson that we learned next day was, luxury and comfort can't guarantee you a peaceful life or a sleep. Even in spite of that, so we were here in this place. One of us, the very next morning, has made a decision not to go to the base camp because of the sleepless night that day. And that happened with me also, right? So it was the next morning was very difficult for us, that whether we want to take an exit at this point or we want to go next to the base camp. Somehow we made over with our team effort, because we decided very initially that, okay, we will make sure that neither of us, we will take everyone along. It will not be the one's decision to go or not, it will be all's decision, right? So somehow, somewhere, little late, we started our journey. because this was our final journey, or this was our final day. The first day we were supposed to complete and reach Gorakshep. The next day we were supposed to reach, so the second half, the same day we were supposed to reach Everest Base Camp. So this was our final D-Day. But you can look at in the pictures how the journey was within the first half. So one of that colleagues, so he has been lying on the mountain just for the rest, right? So this was like the place. So I think we were so much tired, you can actually see, but finally somehow after taking small steps, we reached to this place. So this is the final place, the Gorakshep, and this is somewhere around 5,100 meters, and from here the base camp journey starts. And believe it, when we reached here, so this was my decision also, that I don't want to move forward. I will just take a break for the day there itself, because the journey was getting so and so tough. But somehow I don't know what energized me to stand up this Khumbu Glacier's view that was attracting to us. So we actually made in the second half of our journey, and we reached finally to our goal of Everest Base Camp the same day, right? So finally it was done, you know, but this was not that easy. There was a lot of other motivations also, so which was in between. So some of the pictures that actually we made, so I think we met Mr. Prakash Jha. He's 72 years from Delhi. We met him there on the way to Everest Base Camp. Another person, Daljit Singh from Ludhiana, he came to the base camp with just a bare minimum amount of less than 20,000 rupees with his wife. But his wife could not complete that journey. She actually halted in Phagding only, and from Phagding he actually took all the way, and he started all his journey by road from here to Kathmandu, and all that with very less number of resources, right? I told you, with less than 20,000. And something like, I think when you reach there, you will actually find this place really interesting. So you sometimes when your stomach is empty now, so you hear some sounds from the stomach. So same here, when you are standing in that glacier, so you will hear the sound of the earth's stomach. So wherein the stones are going left and right, and they are actually striking each other. You can hear that sound of water, hear that sound. So that's very, very interesting thing, lovely about that nature. So this is the snowflake. I think this is on our jacket also. I think you can see this. So normally this is the sign for the snowflake, and this is something that we found. This when the snow is falling, this is the symbol that is being made, right? So this was happening. So we were finding that. So we were getting energized, but our energy was getting very dull, very low. So the last lesson that we learned here is, don't focus on what is missed, but focus on what is achieved. And you know what we missed in spite of all this motivation and energy, with our mistakes, we missed the Kala Pathar. So Kala Pathar is a place. So when you go to the Everest Base Camp, you don't get the Everest view. But for the Everest view, you have to start your journey at morning 3 or 4. You have to go to the Kala Pathar from Gorakshep, and then you can actually, if you are lucky enough, you can get a view of Everest right from there. So we missed that our journey. We missed Kala Pathar in our journey, and also we missed our return track. By the time so we reached back to Gorakshep, next morning one of us was in a condition so where I think we were literally looking, so probably we may need hospitalization for one of us. So that is something we missed, and that was because of the mistakes of in the acclimatization that we did. We did not took a halt on the journey, right? So, but we realize that later at this stage. So that's all from my side. I think my final learnings to all of you. There were opportunities. We learned time management. We learned reacting to the problems, willingness, team play, breaks, perspective, clear of your zone, and peaceful life and sleep. Luxury and comfort is not that important, and always focus on what is missed, not focus on what is missed, but focus on what is achieved. That's all from my side. Thanks everyone. Thanks for being a nice and very patient audience. I think we can now start up with the Q&A. Yeah.
Thanks, Satish. Satish, just want to start with this one. So, it is not easy for even some of the movie directors to hold on the audience so long. But
No,
you did it.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So we will start with the questions here. So first question is, would like to know your 1 or 2 suggestions for moving from comfort zone to fear zone and moving to the learning zone in a work world.
Okay. So I think so probably regular practice is something that can always make you, right? So even if I go back to that particular slide, right? So probably so whenever you are actually going from that learning zone to the growth zone, you have to deal with a lot of problems, right? You have to acquire new skills. So for that you need practice, a lot of practice and practice, right? So to make sure that you are actually practicing it in the right way and practicing it regularly, you have to make your good habits, right? So like I give you an example. So when I actually made a decision for this, so I was just before that, during the COVID period, so I had made an habit of doing regular yoga meditation for 1 hour daily. So that helped me a lot during my journey. So it is not the physical fitness that will matter here, it is your mental fitness. And I think that is equally important in your professional life also. So even today, so after I came back from here, I have made this a regular mandate for me that probably once in an hour, I will make sure I meditate. Now that meditation can be, you can find that meditation in, let's say, playing some game, you can find that meditation in your cycling, you can find that meditation in going to the gym or whatever. So any kind of physical, mental activity that will keep you busy. So that is good, right? So that help you in making sure that you are in the right zone.
Thanks, Satish. So next question is from Rekupati. How do you relate this journey with your entrepreneur journey? Satish would like to know that one.
So life is life in an entrepreneurship. So when you actually come, so it's like a roller coaster ride. So when actually you go step by step, you make decisions. You make the right decisions sometimes, you make sometimes the wrong decisions also, right? So that's how I think that's the same way I think when I actually go through these steps, so wherein I think we made right decision, we made wrong decisions. So that happens in our entrepreneurial life also. So we made decisions, right or wrong, but the important is never stop and keep moving, never stop, keep going. So that is important.
Okay, thanks. So as you said, willingness is much more valuable than the resources in the resourceful world, right? So keep going rather than the end goal. Continue the journey. That is what you try to say. Okay.
Yes.
Wonderful. Any other questions?
This is Anil here. I have a question to Satish.
Sure. Anil. Go ahead, please.
Satish, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Satish, the time that you've been to Everest Base Camp and the place that you have chosen, first of all, it is cold, and we were just in the middle of pandemic, and breathing problems are on top notch, because pandemic is all about related to the breathing and the climate, and people were not moving out. So what was that, how did you prepare yourself? Because first of all, the environment even at your home is also scary, because things are so bad outside, and wherever you're going is so difficult to breathe. So in that scenario, is it not a daring thing that you have done, or how did you prepare that? Okay, let me go to Everest itself. That's a basic question. You went there and struggled is a different thing, but I'm struggling to understand, how did you make that decision itself in the middle of pandemic?
So I think that question also came to my mind. Why am I actually doing that? But then probably you always see, how I correlate that is in entrepreneur journey. So you always take some risks, right? Some calculated risks. So this was one of those calculated risks. So where I identified that from last 1 year, no one has actually gone to this place. So this will be easy to capture for, and there will be less rush there. And it was actually, and believe it, unfortunately, when we reached there after a week or so, so we actually came across the news that the journey was completely halted and stopped because of few cases identified in the base camp 1. Right. So how the decision was made, that is still a question in my mind. But yes, I love taking some calculated risks somewhere. I hope I'm able to answer your question.
Yes, thank you. All the best.
So this one more question I would like to ask. So a team plays an important role in your success. So in your entrepreneur journey, how did you ensure that the team that you have is the right one that will come along with you and will be motivating each other through the journey? Do any insights?
I think it is about your regular interaction, right? So it's not always, okay, the team member is something great. It is the team that is great. And so always the great team is not of the extraordinary people, but the ordinary people that makes the team great. So bring those ordinary people together and make sure their bonding is always strong. So if their bonding is strong, finally the end result will be good and team will be good. So we do regular activities, even non-work related activities we do in our office, so wherein the team engagement and bonding becomes stronger and stronger. So like during even in the pandemic, so when we were actually working from home, we in fact intensity of the activities we increased in that way, right? Our engagement through our HR was increased, right? So people don't feel like boredom there, and there was other challenges also I think people were facing. So this is like the team is something, so wherein the people understand each other. It is not something like, okay, the team lead is saying something and the team member is understanding something, unless they don't have a bond, right? So they will not understand each other's problem. And so we very transparently from top to the bottom share the business goals very clearly. So the one who is actually working at the ground level, the team member who is working at the ground level is very clear of, okay, what is the business goal that they have to do. So if they are clear about that business goal, so certainly the kind of energy, the kind of effort genuinely comes and the results actually appear automatically.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Satish.
Thank you very much, Satish. Thanks, Srijit, for facilitating this session. Yeah, it was really interesting, Satish. It was a really different session, but yes, you had very well summarized the things by giving a good takeaways, which we can relate directly with our day-to-day life also.